Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Coming from the year 1978. 2021. Can you hear me? Pretty good microphone for 1970, right? Anyway, today we're in the capital of Kampala, Uganda. Tanzanians are now patrolling the streets and trying to get Uganda back on its feet. Now today on this show, we're actually going to do geopolitical. We do financial, racial, stereotypical, and now today we're doing geopolitical. I've actually taken a geopolitical class, not to brag, but today we're actually going to look at the ramifications of the invasion. Because winning a war and starting a war is half of the actual war. The other half are the geopolitical ramifications and of course the fallout from said war. War is brutal and unjust, and beginning, start, and end are all brutal, disorienting, and could bring widespread changes and diplomatic destruction for everybody involved. So today we're actually going to look at the geopolitical ramifications. What does Tanzania invading Uganda say about Africa and the African Union? What does African socialism being involved in this? Does it help spread communism throughout Africa? What does it say about fighting the white minority governments of South Africa or Southern Africa? Is invading a country good, even if the rulers are unjust? And another question, a very interesting question. Does Black Africa look towards Black Africa, or Black Africa looks towards colonial or geographical nations that align with their interess? For instance, Somalia is actually part of the AOU and the Arab League, and not even being there, Arabia has Islam and other such things as that. So today we're actually going to answer all of these questions and more. Ladies, gentlemen, NMB, hope you enjoy, hope you learn something. Kind of went over the limit, but enjoy today's feature presentation. Alright, make it 15, yada yada, let's go. Kampala, Uganda, the 15th of April 1979. The invasion of Uganda by the forces of President Julius K. Nyerere of Tanzania is a triumph for him personally and for Tanzania, and has been greeted as welcome news over much of Africa and even the world. But geopolitical ramifications. But overlooking the euphoria of Kampala, as thousands of Ugandans who have suffered 8 gruesome years under President Idi Amin rejoice as the pros and the prospects of him being hunted down in the bushes are a gleeful smile, is actually the worrisome fact that for the first time in the history of the independent African countries and Africa as a whole, one nation has toppled the government of another inside of Africa. The invasion force that captured the Ugandan capital on Wednesday includes thousands of Ugandans who have fled the Amin regime, some from the former Milton Obote, some from warlords, and some from former army officers that were on board after Mobutu left, but were not on board after Idi Amin started butchering Uganda. But there is no doubt that the bulk of the fighting army, the suppliers of guns and ammunition, and the drivers of the tanks were Tanzanian, as were the top military planners, and they were paraded more as propaganda than the protectors of Uganda. Initially, Tanzania's strategy was to move slowly, allowing for the exiles to take the lead and hoping for a spontaneous insurrection and uprising against President Idi Amin and even his own forces. But President Nyerere's hand had been forced by the Libyan troops, which were from Gaddafi, who rushed to the President Amin's rescue, and he gave the order for Tanzanian soldiers to march on to Kampala. Although Tanzania was retaliating for an abortive Ugandan invasion in October, the movement into the neighboring country was as blatant as Vietnam's invasion of Cambodia earlier this year to oust the Khmer Rouge. And basically, they have the same backstory. Foreign troops that were close together are now attacking each other as the butcher of another country has to be deposed. But will they fight a gruesome war of attrition and jungle? Nah, they just roll straight into Kampala, unlike the Vietnamese. But the Vietnamese will probably win though. Healthy boundaries have been sacrosanct and hopefully will not be broken. It is ironic that it should have happened in Africa, Because the continent is so unstable, cursed with scores of territorial disputes and border conflicts from the legacy of colonialism. I was going to add my own, but they actually, the 70s are actually kind of progressive. The principle of actually respecting boundaries, irrational as they may be, have been fixed in the Charter of the Organization of African Unity, or the OAU, and is regarded as high law not to do so ever again. So border wars are no. It is actually also ironic that the principal of the drama should be President Nyerere or Nyerere. He is respected throughout the continent in high-minded intellectual leaders, so much so that the personification of moral principle that he has been called Africa's consciousness. Though his country is technically not part of Southern Africa, slightly, he and the country of Tanzania has become the titular leader of the struggle against the white minority-led governments there because he is deeply committed to overthrowing racial injustice, from SWAPO campaigning Tanzania and Zanzibar to the ANC having a chat with Nyerere. Stuff like that. Rhodesia, Portuguese until they left, South Africa, apartheid, those kind of stuff. So Mr. Nyerere found President Idi Amin's brand of oppression to be no less repugnant as those of white Africans or white Rhodesians. And he is denouncing it, and he has denounced it publicly. One of the few African leaders to actually do so. But he is also a believer of the Organization of African Unity, or the OAU, a sometimes ineffective but still revered body in Africa. And unironically, he now finds himself a violator of one of its cardinal tenets, and he has made a cardinal sin: the invasion of the border. So attempting to save face and head off criticism, he has defended the invasion by pointing out that the OAU did not condemn or take action against Uganda, or Amin, for its early attacks on Tanzania. As a matter of policy, the organization does not condemn member countries, and when it took one of the few courses of action it could, sending a mediation committee to both the countries, it was actually rebuffed by Tanzania. Disparaged collective security now broken. Mr. Nyerere's speech yesterday in effect refuted the notion that African nations can any longer find security from aggression in the international organization. When African nations find themselves incapable collectively of punishing a single country, he said, then each country has to look after itself, which it should. So the problem is that with the Tanzanian example, the dangers of aggression may have actually increased. Nigeria, which tried fruitlessly to mediate the war, hinted at it in a statement 2 days before Kampala was captured. It said that interfering to such an extent in another country could actually set off a chain reaction in Africa, in which few military powerful nations would be able to determine the leadership of other states. Nigeria is actually a case in point for this. If it wanted to, it could forcibly change just about any government in West Africa, and being one of the largest Anglophone countries in West Africa, it could. Nigeria's statement was the closest to any African nation that has actually started to criticize Tanzania. Most have actually remained silent or non-oblivious with their problems going on elsewhere, and a number, including Tanzanian allies among the 5 frontline states opposing Rhodesia at this point, have actually staunchly defended President Nyerere's cause, or Nyerere. Last year, 1978. Last year, Somalia was actually condemned by Black Africa for its invasion of Ethiopia, and had to look at the Arab world and look to the Arab world for support. This year, Uganda had found no single ally in Black Africa, and had to look to the Arabs as well, especially Libya. The answer to this puzzle lies in the depths of the animosity that most African leaders harbor for the Amin regime. Their feelings became clear 2 weeks ago when the 50-member African group of the United Nations sent the Ugandan leader a message advising him against asking the Security Council for help against the invaders of Tanzania. The staunch surprise some observers had actually had, who recall how rarely other black African nations have condemned President Amin in public. The reluctance to oppose him, some believe, sprang from the sense of racial solidarity within Africa. But in private, African diplomats and geopolitical scientists and intellectuals from Dakar to Nairobi vehemently and involuntarily are against Mr. Amin, shuddering at his antics and declaring him to be a white South Africa's most effective propaganda tool and destroying the African solidarity and unity with questions like this. And anyway, that was kind of a long one. I kind of petered out at the end, but we made it to the end. So anyway, ladies, gentlemen, NMB, I did it in another video and that will come out first, and this will probably be tomorrow. But hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. You want to try something big tomorrow? Let's try something big tomorrow. Anyway, hope you enjoyed and I hope you learned something, and until next time, learn something. Ladies, gentlemen, NMB, learn something. Bakomoyo